Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar this evening. My name is Donald Rooms. I am a faculty member in the International Business Department, and I'm also the Director for Student Success Initiatives in our college. And it's a pleasure to have you join us for this, our second in the series, Conversations on Race and Equity, Part 2. So this part, we will focus on a different set of issues concerning the College of Business. In our first session, our focus was really on how did we get here? We're talking about things that have happened or are happening within our country as a result of the recent killing of George Floyd. And you will recall that in that we heard the very gruesome expression, "I can't breathe." So in our reflections and in our discussion, we're wanting to look at race issues and how that term, "I can't breathe," reflects in our society and how it stops a group of people, a particular community, from moving ahead. With the subsequent unrest and violence that we've seen in our cities, it is important that as a college of business, we look at some of the ways we can fashion worthy outcomes for our students going forward. So in this session, we will note particularly that following our first session discussion, our Dean Joanne Lee, took the step of creating an initiative in which we look at our student ambassadors for inclusion and diversity. Well, those two student panelists from the first session have been selected and appointed. They are Alexander Buchan and Akeem, and they're both joining us today in our audience as well. So it gives me great pleasure to hand over now to our student leader for the DSAB, that's the Dean's Student Advisor Board, and they're the ones sponsoring this event. Their president is David Garcia. And I'm going to hand over to him right now. Go ahead, David.
Thank you, Dr. Rooms, for that wonderful introduction. I want to thank you all for joining us here at the College of Business on this a very important conversation on race and equity. The first session that we held was on July 22nd, and it opened up the series that aims to look at prejudices that affect various parts of society. We were joined by accounting professor, Dr. Smith, who also serves as a faculty advisor for NABA, Professor Anglad from the College of Law here at FIU, and two students. They were Alexander Buchan, the NABA president, and Akeem Green, the president now for the Phoenician Investment Fund. The first conversation was essential in setting the foundation and addressing issues of systemic racism and prejudices that are still overly present in our society. We looked at the introduction of slavery in our country and how it has created lasting effects that are still harming the Black and other minority communities today. After the tragic death of George Floyd, many Americans and people across the globe were reminded of the hate that exists in people's hearts just because someone has a different skin tone than they do, and oftentimes even just for having different beliefs than they do. As a society, and especially as a college here, we have to extend understanding to those affected and hear all voices so that we can move towards an inclusive and just society. We understand here at the College of Business that people from all walks of life have to be involved in this very difficult conversation and make efforts to work with one another in addressing hate and inequity. Shortly after the conversation back in July, like Donald Rooms mentioned, Dean Lee met with Alexander Buchan and Akeem Green to help our college build a better sense of inclusion and diversity when it comes to opportunities with top employers and participation here on the campus. These two students will work closely with Diversity Equity Fellows Deborah Vandermeer and also Fred Wahlumbo, who's here today. He's a professor in international business, as well as with the assistant of Dr. Donald Rooms, who was my faculty advisor and gave that introduction. This group will advocate for more inclusion and opportunities for all here at our wonderful college. One of the things that resonated heavily with me during our first conversation was when Dr. Smith talked about how it is hard for Black students to feel supported when they hardly ever see others that look like them in the classroom and around campus. Dr. Smith also pointed out that it's hard to find pictures or meaningful representation of other successful Black people on campus. And that got me thinking on how that may affect a student's drive or hope to do great things when they don't see others that look like them. As I was preparing for this, I came across many articles that show how Black and other minority students often feel that they're not included in the curriculum at many top institutions. Many students report that they have to do the work of faculty and administrators to bring about change to their institutions. Thankfully, that the university that we belong to is not one of those. I'm really grateful to be here, and with the action that Dean Lee took after that first conversation of of appointing these ambassadors to create a more diverse and inclusive campus is something that is really powerful. It's something that's gonna help us lead change beyond our college. Today we have here with us 4 great and ambitious panelists. First, on the faculty side, we have Dr. Fred Wahlumbo, who is a professor in international business here at FIU, and Dr. Cheryl Weir-Thompson, a professor in marketing and logistics. We also have Sarah Noel, who is an accounting major in the Honors College with a minor in business analytics. Sarah is currently the Chief Financial Officer for NABA, is the Treasurer for the NAACP, and is the Marketing Director for Subsidiary Tech Group and Alpha. We also have Alia Paulette, who is a finance major in the Honors College and the President for FMA. So Dr. Fred, would you be able to give us a brief introduction of yourself to everyone here at the audience?
Thank you very much, David, and everybody else for inviting me here. Again, my name is Fred Wahlumbo. I'm a faculty in the Department of International Business. I'm passionately interested or eager to discuss some of the issues that are going to come here, some of which I've faced myself. And I'm here to testify and make this as interesting as we can. So I'm looking forward to hearing all your thoughts, questions, everything else, ready to go.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. And Dr. Cheryl Weir-Thompson, could you please introduce yourselves to everybody?
I would love to. I first want to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to be part of this discussion. My name is Dr. Cheryl Weir-Thompson. I am from the diverse country of Jamaica. I play many roles. I'm a mother, a wife, a teacher, a counselor, a researcher, and I am an agent of change. I have a master's degree in counseling education and a doctorate degree in business administration. My areas of research are human behavior, marketing, leadership, and workforce sustainability. I've been a member of the FIU faculty for over 6 years. So my heritage is a compilation of many races. While as Jamaicans, we pride ourselves on being inclusive, there are many instances of unconscious bias, which has guided my education and allowed me to focus on highlighting issues that cripple the growth of a society and an organization. I believe that racism, prejudice, biases, and discrimination have been ingrained in our culture, and it has been successfully promoted or marketed through music, art, and literature. I'm confident that marketing and changes in human behavior are essential to the exposure and eradication of these depravities. I'm honored to be here, and thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Cheryl Weir-Thompson. And now, Sarah, would you be able to introduce yourselves to everybody, please?
Yes, of course. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the warm welcome, David, and thank you for having me on board as a panelist. It's unfortunate that I had to take a series of prominent media coverage to uncover the depth of racial inequality that is rooted in our systems. Being a Black woman, part of the Black community, these conversations happen more often than not. But nevertheless, I'm glad members of the FIU community are taking a part in these difficult conversations. Having these type of sit-down discussions from people of different age groups, backgrounds, and even professions enables us to make a meaningful change in the world around us, whether that impact is big or small. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for that introduction. And Talia?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today here. I'm a finance major here at FIU. I'm on my last year. I'm also the president for FMA at FIU. I'm really excited to cover some of the issues that we're going to cover here today and give some of my input. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your introductions. And everybody, as we go along, please start submitting questions, anything that you want to ask to any of the panelists, something that you heard that maybe you want to expand upon. Please start sending those in whenever you'd like, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So Dr. Fred, could you start by introducing yourself to the audience, explain your involvements, history as a professor here at the college, and why did you think it was important to be a part of this conversation?
Thanks, David. That's a tough one. I didn't expect that I was going to go first. Having heard from excellent ideas from the ladies, so I came to FIU in 2013. I've been here for 7 years now, I believe so. And issues to do with race and equity, I think, are critical. We are not talking of equality here, we're talking of equity, just fairness. So I'm a firm believer of fairness and believe that all of us can do well if we are provided the opportunity. I want to highlight that I think our dean is doing extremely well in terms of allowing this kind of conversations to continue, because much of the research that I do has to do with awareness. And I think the more aware we are about what is happening around us, the more we are able to help. So a conversation like this, in my view, it's the best beginning so far in terms of, opening space for people to talk all about their frustrations, all about their experiences, things that they want to be improved and how they want them to be improved. So I saw this as an opportunity to be part of the voice that can encourage the business community to speak up. And by me coming here, I'm telling them that I am as involved as anybody else should. And the more we come together, address these issues, they are real. There's no question about that. And it is time to talk about these things and find solutions. Part of my orientation is to be more positive in terms of, things we want to change as opposed to things that, we can't change. So I think what we can change is to create an environment that everybody feels welcome. And I think for the dean to have an initiative like this, and everything starts at the top. We can make all the noise we want, but if the dean is not in support of what we are trying to do, then chances, in my view, is it's a waste of time, or it might just lead to something else. So the fact that the dean is personally involved in this kind of conversation, in my view, tells me that we have an opportunity here. And for those of you who have been hiding there, who have not been able to talk, this is your time to talk. Let's come up and share our ideas. Let's come up with solutions as opposed to just blame games, because we have so many to blame, by the way. And if we start counting them, we probably will never get the answer we need. So this is our opportunity. This is our time. We have the support from the leadership, and let's take advantage of that.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. That's exactly right. And for those of you here, just because you aren't a panelist today, you can still be a part of this, help, with solutions and bringing about change by, contacting us and submitting questions today so we can brainstorm and collectively come together. And now, Dr. Cheryl Weir-Thompson, could you do the same thing? Explain your involvements, history as a professor here at the college, and why did you think it was important to be a part of this conversation?
I came to FIU back in 2004 as a student. So I earned both my bachelor's and my master's degree at FIU. And then after, I returned as an adjunct professor, and now I am a visiting instructor. Now, I teach both introduction to marketing, market research, and I also teach personal selling. Now, why did I accept this opportunity to speak is because I have seen the growth of FIU. I have experienced FIU as both a student and now as a faculty member. And I've seen the changes. And I was sharing with earlier, the war, or not even war, it's the constant process when it comes to making changes that would allow everyone the equal opportunity to give back to not only their community, but to the organizations where they work. And I needed to be a part of this conversation because the conversation will not stop here. What we're dealing with is a problem that will continue to change its faces. So now our conversation is focused on African American, but later on it will be a different group. And this conversation, I don't want it to, I want it not to just be about African American. Yes, now we will talk about it, but the strategies that we need to implement should be strategies that can help everyone, anyone who has found themselves in a situation where their needs are not met. Either your needs are not met as a student because you are not getting the instructions you need, you're not taught in the way that you learn, and myself as a faculty being able to reach out to those students. I'm of a different heritage, so what do I bring to the College of Business is my experience from my ethical background, from being a woman, from being an international student, and from being a student and a mother. So what do I aim to do is to allow them to see not just what we can do in this conversation, but what we need to continue to do in this conversation. It doesn't end today. It's a living organism that will continue to change. And the diversity that we bring will help us get closer to, like I said earlier, eradicating, getting rid of the things that are crippling us, that are not allowing us to grow as we should.
Thank you for those comments. And those are all some really great points that we'll address a little bit more in detail later. So now, Sarah, could you tell everyone about your major, your current leadership involvements, what your professional goals are, and why you were motivated to join this conversation today?
Hello, so as mentioned previously, I'm currently majoring in accounting with a minor in business analytics, and I'm planning on getting my CPA so that I could be a public accountant at whatever firm takes me. I wanted to join this panel because I knew it was important, especially because I am part of this community and this is what they're speaking towards. Professors have less interactions with people that look like me, right? We go to FIU, it's based in Miami. The populations are primarily students and professors of Hispanic background. And being a student right now, I feel like that school teaches us a lot of things. It teaches us about differences among different cultures, racial backgrounds, ethnicities, etc. It also teaches us about the history of our backgrounds and our cultures and our races. But it doesn't take into account how to actually acknowledge these differences and how to go about understanding them and applying them to our day-to-day lives. And what do we do exactly when we encounter them? So I feel as though education always has some gap or some disconnect between the concepts being learned and how to actually apply them. So that's why I was very passionate to jump on board as a panelist when I was invited.
Thank you, Sarah. And now, Talia, could you tell everyone about your major, your leadership involvements, what your professional goals are, and why you were motivated to join today's conversation?
Hello, everyone. So I am majoring in finance, and some of my leadership involvements is that I've participated in the Whole Price competition, which is a social business in which I've helped the HIV community. And then I'm also the president for the FMA at FIU, which is a new organization this semester at FIU Business. And I was very passionate about joining this conversation because I am very active in my community and I've gotten the chance to talk to different people from different backgrounds and cultures and ethnicities. And so I think that it's very important to talk about this and to come up with action plans to deal with it, not just be aware of it, but also take action to make it better and improve. So that's kind of why I wanted to join.
Thank you, Talia. And now before we continue with the next questions, I want to make the announcement again to everyone before we continue. Please send in any questions you have so we can address them here live. It is very important that we all stay engaged to get the best outcome. This is where we will grow as a community and a college by having these conversations and then implementing change.
Good question. Well, there are quite a number. I did not mention because I had anticipated that question was coming. I'm originally from Kenya. For those of you who don't know, that's the country where the former President Barack Obama's father came from, my village. And so it has been quite a change. So there are so many challenges, and I don't necessarily want to say they are obstacles, so to speak, but I kind of translated them into opportunities, so to speak. And for sure, me standing here is a good testimony to quite a number of you who are the students now who are aspiring to be what they want. Is that I'm a strong believer of working hard, and if you do work hard, there are going to be challenges, but that's part of our human nature, and that's part of what we live in. So you're always going to find a small space, however small it is. So as you know, people of color or blacks or women, for that matter, there are so many impediments, blocks that are always going to be put on you. You are not the smartest, you're not the best. Well, you are doing this because you are associated with so-and-so. well, so be it. If associating with someone makes you look good, why not? So I would always try to encourage you to take some of these name callings, people, branding you, all sorts of stuff. They will brand you if you're a woman. They will brand you if you're a black. They will brand you if you're a person of color. And unfortunately, also, which sometimes we don't talk about, there's also reverse, part of this thing whereby we, as the people who feel that we're being discriminated, we also end up doing the same to people that, have done that to us. We call it reverse discrimination or whatever language you want to call it. So everybody at some level has some blocks or obstacles in their way. But I think what I would like you to take from me as an example is that if you get focused, and I'm one of those people that don't believe in just the talk. Action is louder than words. So we need to translate everything that we talk about into action. If I had promised myself I wanted to be a professor, I am a professor today because that's what I wanted to do. I worked so hard for it. So irrespective of the blocks that were there, I lived in welfare as a student. I was getting those food stamps, and that's just the nature of the business. And if I hear people saying, well, I can't do that, no, you have to do certain stuff for you to get somewhere. And so I'm a huge believer of working hard and ensuring that all the challenges we have, they're going to be there. We are not going to, like I said, completely address all of them, but the more we try and the more we see successful stories like some of us now talking in front of you, the more I hope that you believe that if we just keep on the fight and providing actionable plans as opposed to just whining or talking, I don't think then we'll keep on talking for the rest of our lives. We have the dean, for example, I've mentioned in this college that is willing to engage with us. I don't think we can engage with the dean forever. No, we have to come up with solutions of how we make our college better, as opposed to, oh, well, these are just suggestions. So if she's willing and she has indicated to me, at least from what she has done over the past few years, that we can sit down and talk and come up with actionable plan. And I think that's the goal that I really would love to achieve. And on that note, I just want to tell you that I'm also now working with the Office of the Provost as one of the faculty fellows. And some of the issues that we are addressing there are issues to do with diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I think it is time, and the university is probably embracing like no one I know. I've been to 3 universities, and I'm seeing we're doing far much better in terms of allowing people to talk and put this into action. So I hope that at the end of my time, or within the next few years, we shall have something that we can be proud of, all of us.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. And I think those last comments really speaks volumes of the leadership and the willingness to do good here at our college. And now, Dr. Weir Thompson, the same question is going to be for you. What were some of the challenges or hardships that you faced in your professional and academic journey? And then also what he said about branding and maybe being associated with some sort of group, which would have to do with like prejudices and biases. Since you're a marketing professor, could you expand on that a little bit more?
Thank you. So my obstacles came from me. There were my own biases, and my biases were strongly influenced by what society presented to me. So when I grew up, you have pictures of what you can become, examples of what you can become, and those in certain positions looked a certain way, spoke a certain way, of a certain gender. I couldn't relate to those group of people. So I had to get rid of my bias. Am I going to follow, quote unquote, what society has shown me, or am I going to fight with all I have to break those molds? So as a student, I didn't come as a regular student to FIU. When I came as a student, I was already a mother with 2 children. So the whole campus life was kind of different for me. But like Dr. Fred had said, I don't want to mess up your last name. I know him as Fred. As he so eloquently said, you have to get over those things. You have to pave your own road. Sometimes you're going to go down a road, and of course there might be others, but you don't see it because it's overgrown. If it means you have to make your own path, then make it. So I could count all of the African-American professors I had, but I had 2 females, and that's all I needed to see. 2, because if 2 did it, I can do it. So getting rid of my own biases, yes, there are a lot of obstacles out there, but you have to find a way to break them down. Now, from a marketing perspective, and I always tell my students, see yourself as a brand. Become the product or service that the world cannot do without. Once you realize that everything about you is unique, and because it's unique, you are a luxury item, then you'll have no problem making paths. You'll have no problem cutting down the roads. I remember I was in a meeting with Dean Lee, and she said something which it meant so much to me because it needs to happen more. It was during the program where students from Miami-Dade County School would come and spend a day with a certain executive, and a female spent the day with her. And at the end of the day, the student said, I know what I want to become. I want to become a dean. When I never met a female dean, so I didn't aspire to that. I saw 2 female professors, and that was where I was going. So her just being in her position is enough for us to know, yes, there are many obstacles, but we can be that agent of change. We can decide that we're going to go for it, and we cannot expect it to be easy. We have to fight for it, and we have to get rid of our own biases. Yes, there are biases there, but we have to tell ourselves we can do it and we will do it. So as a marketer, go out and market yourself. I'm sure when Dean Lee was interviewed, she wasn't very coy or shy. She got up and she told the administration what she can bring to FIU. And we are here, we see what she has brought to FIU. And, you know, right now we see here now, we're having this conversation and it's something that she's brought up. Why wasn't this conversation had before? Because it took someone who wasn't afraid to make a new road. This is new, and she wasn't afraid to do it. So as students, as faculty, we need to also get rid of our own biases. If there is no path there, then make it.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. That was really powerful and motivating and uplifting. So now for the 2 students, Sarah and Alia, could you share some of your experiences as minority students in the college? What have been some of the things that you've observed over the years that you may see a need for change? And also going back to what Dr. Thompson said about having that female influence to look up to know that you could accomplish that. Has that been something that has helped you get to where you are now to now be 2 prominent student leaders in the college?
FIU prides itself with the diverse students that they have and the global population that makes up the student body. I have seen FIU's attempts to making greater strides in being more inclusive overall, especially for the Black community. However, there's still more that needs to be done, or as the saying goes, there's always room for improvement. As previously mentioned, when you walk into a classroom in the College of Business and look around, there's that immediate feeling of being uncomfortable. They are not facing the same challenges that I am, and there are not certain labels that are automatically assumed to those other races as well. Additionally, among the sea of those many people, it's hard to find where you do belong. Thankfully, I was able to discover NABA, where I was surrounded with people that look like me and who are driven and passionate about business just like me. I was then exposed to even more people that were there to support me, to uplift me as I climbed. And to end off your question, David, in regards to a female influence that I look up to, it was pretty recent, but it would honestly be Dr. Professor Antoinette Smith. She's definitely encouraged me. You know, she motivates me. I look to her as a mentor whenever I have any problems or concerns, and it's just so inspiring hearing her stories. And every time she opens her mouth, I'm just like, just in awe, because it's like, she's so poised and she's so successful. And it's like, wow, like there's someone else out there that's that successful, and it just makes all the possibilities seem endless.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think that's a good example for everybody who may be uncertain, unsure of themselves when they come onto a college campus. Everything's new to them. Everybody's looking for somebody that's like them, that has, accomplished things that they want to do, and being able to have that figure that represents you, can translate things to you in a way that you understand, I think is really, really powerful and important. And then now, Talia, if you could answer the same question, share some of your experiences in the college, and if you've seen anything that you see a need for change. And then also, like Dr. Weir Thompson had mentioned about having like that female role model in your college experience, if that's helped you in any way.
So hi everyone. So being a finance major and a minority student as well, it's been really hard at the beginning just to see women in finance, especially, and in some of the organizations that I joined when I got to FIU, it was really hard. But as time went on, I kind of saw more female involvement and more females trying to do what they want to do and not being afraid of all the social stigmas are set out by society in a whole. At FIU, I think it does a really good job at having different organizations for different people so that everyone feels welcome, but it takes a little while to kind of figure that out for new students at least. Some like a female leader that I look up to is Professor Kate Sagman from FIU Startup. She's like an agent for social change. So I think I really appreciate her, and her advice when I took her course was really mind blowing, and I really appreciated that, and it really inspired me to achieve all of my goals. So that's to finish your question.
Thank you. And then now the next question is going to be for everybody. So whoever wants to go first. Do you see a need for student leader training, such as training on how to be an effective ally for others? These could be workshops of some sort that help non-Black student leaders develop skills and framework to help combat issues like racism, inequality, and to help achieve that goal that we're going for here in being equal and fair to everyone.
All right, I guess I will. The answer to your question, David, is yes. Any type of education, what we learn in class is just part of our learning process. And that's why, for me, especially when I'm in class, I put so many hearts. My son also goes to FIU, by the way. So just for your information, I put so many hearts. I put the heart of a father, the heart of a son, the heart of a husband, the heart of almost everything that is there. So yes, I think students need opportunities. And by the way, what we are doing now is one of those training workshops that we're talking about. Because I think students need to take time from the usual going to the beach or the usual going reading all the books to sometimes just come here whereby we are freelancers, so to speak. We speak our mind, what happens to us. And so as part of the student leadership, encourage them to attend some of these functions, because some of the people that they think they can't talk to, when you hear Sarah talking about Antoinette and Professor Smith, sorry to call her Antoinette in this forum, when you hear those, then they start seeing that sense that, oh, these people can talk to them. There are people that are, talk to them really. So it's those simple things that I think make the biggest differences, because, big conferences, remember some of these things, thanks goodness we are now in coronavirus where we talk through Zoom. Some of these things are damn expensive when it comes to organizing conferences. So I think we need to just go with the smaller ones whereby we organize this kind of forums. So God willing, we come back on campus. Let's have these conversations once in a while. Don't make them too many, because if you make them too many, nobody will come. And just once in a while, let students ventilate. Let them talk whatever they want to say. Tell them, this is your time. The dean probably will be there. Department chairs, whom we haven't talked much about here, some of our department chair are really doing great job. I have one in my department that, I go there, whine a little bit once in a while, and he say, well, Fred, we can do that. So let them see these people to make sure that they know these are just human beings. When you talk about Dean Lee, she's the dean, but guess what? She's a mother, You know, she's a sister to someone, you know, those kind of things. So bring all this together so that we can engage and have some little conversation. So if you do that, I think it will be great. I'm sure that Donald and his team will be able to support those kind of things. Again, don't make them too many, because once they become too many, people will not come.
I just jump in here. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Dr. Waluma, for those comments. And in fact, I'd just like to bring in one of the questions on this topic that is in our chat right now from Dr. Perry. And he wanted to know if there are some initiatives that we can be started involving student groups and faculty administration in order to keep the ball rolling. So yes, I do want to second your comments there, Dr. Waluma, because this is really what this is about. In actual fact, this is like a workshop of gathering ideas together where we can actually take action going forward. So the first session, as we mentioned earlier on, the number one outcome out of that was the dean taking action to name student ambassadors for inclusion and diversity. So that was immediate action. I congratulate our dean for taking those action steps to set the framework. I believe very strongly that for change to happen, we need to set like an ecosystem in place, an infrastructure where students and student groups have the freedom and feel that they're empowered to bring suggestions to the table, to bring action steps to the table. And that has been happening since the first session. So again, that we had two, just to be very frank with you, we had two male students, Akeem and Alexander, in the first session, and we already are practicing diversity. We brought two female students on the second session. Sarah, thank you so much, and Alia. So it is a workshop in effect, and we're practicing as we go along. And Talia is a president of the FMA, the Financial Management Association. And so Sarah also is the Chief Financial Officer for NABA, the National Association for Black Accountants. So these are student leaders who we're leaning on, along with the prior two students who are now student ambassadors for inclusion and diversity efforts. So in this workshop, the next step, one of the next outcome would be to create, like you were talking just now, Fred, a workshop of training and developing other student leaders to feel free and feel comfortable talking about uncomfortable topics like these in a setting like this. So we believe that we're going to be empowering, doing that with our students as the conversation go on, and also to take action in actually stepping out there and finding ways in which we can break down barriers. So this brings me to the question I would like to ask the two student leaders we have here as they prepare to share. We look at what's happening in society and we see, you know, the groups who are going around and starting changes that we can see, some of them symbolic, like removal of some of the images that we find distasteful, you know, our symbols of racism in the past. We would like to ask you as students, you know, what can this college do for you in terms of what barriers are there that you see that we probably need to think a little differently about? From your experience so far, what barriers do you see that we can take action immediately in beginning to change this around for you? Do you see any barriers that are stopping the involvement and inclusion of others, or students especially? Sarah or Taylor?
Yeah, so I think one of the main things would be for student leaders to be trained on how to deal and encourage their student members, the members that are involved in their organization, to speak to them on topics that they want to. So if they have any issues or if they feel like they're facing a problem related to something that can be solved, like race or discrimination and stuff like that, to talk to us and we can help them deal with it. I think student leaders should be trained on that, just because most of us are just students and we kind of need a little bit more training on that so we can help other students who are below us and voice their opinions to like the faculty and our advisors and stuff like that.
I would say,
Sarah?
thank you. I would say building a true community, forming true bonds and relationships with students. There's so much going on around in the world. And I feel like school is a part of life. It's not life. And I feel like we sometimes forget about that. And I feel as though that by creating bonds with students, you start to learn about them. You start to understand them. You start to know what they need in order to succeed in life, right? We always talk about, oh, we have these resources, we have these opportunities available for you guys. They just need to access it, they just need to access it. But, you know, there's just too much going on, so much to balance. And, you know, sometimes you just need to be like, hey, like, how are you doing today? You know, just a little checkup. It brings a smile to my day. So I feel like it'll bring a smile to everyone else's day as well.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm seeing that there needs to be a lot more of understanding. And I feel like sometimes people will hear about these issues and they'll be like, yeah, I see what's going on, but people don't really pay like, you know, a second thought to it. They don't have any empathy because maybe it just doesn't relate to them. So I really think we should encourage people to get it more involved, care for one each other. Like you said, you know, ask people how they're doing because you never know what's going on. And then, so now the next question is going to be, again, now another college related question. You know, during my preparation for this conversation, I read various studies on students and faculty reporting that there isn't adequate representation for Black students and other minorities in the university curriculums. Have we seen that to be an issue from your experiences? And what are your thoughts to improve this if needed? Dr. Wigglati?
So based on what I've seen in the College of Business, I've seen that most of our students are able to get involved, but they're involved, but they're invisible. They have a quiet involvement. And I think it goes back to culture or society. Now, like Sarah, you said it well, university is not society, but a university that has programs in place that help students experience what society will look like will better enable them to break down those obstacles. So having, and I'll give a real experience, because before my FIU days, I was a counselor at Dade County Public School. And there was this student at one of the, I'll tell you the high school, it was Palmetto High. And she had wonderful grades. Very good student, had a lot of potential, and one of her teachers encouraged her to take the SAT and go to college. Now, this is the problem that society, and it's not just society has built these obstacles, but society has successfully empowered some people in society, and others, we need to work on empowering all of them. So her teacher told her, she went home and she told her mom, and her mom, all her mom could think of was that check that she's not gonna get if that child goes to college. So the mother tells her, you're not smart enough. You can't do this, you're going to fail. So we have students that are coming from homes or communities where the sound, what they hear, the cheering they hear is, you can't do it, you're not gonna succeed, you're not smart enough. So they come to these groups and they want to be involved, but they're quiet. Why? Because they're hearing, you're not smart, you can't do it, you're gonna fail. We need to find out where they are. We need to pull them out of those corners. We need to let them know, you're smart enough. We want to hear what you're saying. You will not fail. So just the voice, we have two wonderful ambassadors. The tricky part is, how can we have all of our students feel empowered enough to speak? You know, we can send out surveys, but what can we do to make them, you know, answer more? I know that Dean Lee had the clubs, which is like the different houses, which is a good way to engage students where they can speak. Personally, I've had students who've come to me and speak to me and ask for my input. That's another thing. As faculty members, I know we're busy, we have research, we have grading, but what can we do to accommodate our students who really need that extra push? So it's not just getting them together, but when we get them together, empower them to let them know like Sarah, you have a voice, but that's because it's your parents, your teachers, other things. You have broken down those obstacles. What about our students who have those walls up still? And when they graduate, they're the ones who, I can't find a job, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because they didn't take advantage of the career center, of all the clubs. How can we pull them out? And what can I do to help you as ambassadors to pull them out, to let them know we're here for, this is Florida International University. And everyone that leaves, we want you to come back with a story. We want you to show that you've succeeded, you're doing it, and you're back to help others.
So, David, following that, I didn't know that there were people making comments here, so I ended up reading a few of them. So, David, I think you're 100% right that, you know, FIU is trying. I don't think we have done what we need to do in terms of bringing in faculty of color, blacks or women. There have been some progress. I need to recognize that. And so the way I look at this, and now that I've seen the dean is also here, and I do agree with Professor Perry here, that I think we need to take some bolder steps. And bolder steps means we've talked about diversity and inclusion for so many years. Since Dr. Perry's time, my time, and we are still talking about this. So I think this is a time to put things into action. And putting them into action means, I recently had a dean, the Wharton School dean. She's another giant like our dean here, because these are ladies that are taking the bull by the horns. Okay, they're willing to make changes. They're saying things that people don't want them to do, but they mean well. So number one, we have to make a priority here in terms of putting women and people of color in those places where they are either being mentored. So we have to look at this in terms of succession planning. I have a student of mine doing PhD now, talking about succession planning. Do we have a pipeline whereby if we need a woman, what happens after Dean Lee leaves FIU? Should she leaves? You know, these are the reality things we need to be thinking about. Is there any woman that would even be close to getting to the deanship, for example? Okay. What happens if Fred leaves FIU? Okay. Is there a replacement of someone that, oh, we still have so many black people? So we need to be very intentional in terms of putting these people on the high table so that they can be mentored. To an extent that if there is a chance that they have to progress, then we have a good pool of candidates, not just one or two, that will be able to, you know, progress with this. And I think that is what Perry is trying to suggest here, which I 100% agree with. Let's mentor these people. And you're not going to mentor them if they're outside your ambit. You have to bring them close to that leadership role so that they see what is happening, to an extent that should they leave, go elsewhere. The University of Florida International University is so big, their upper administration. How do you end up going to that upper administration if you don't have even the experience at the college level? So I would like to, as part of my action plan to the dean, is we have to be intentional. We have to take it as a priority so that we have a pipeline where there are women, there are whites, they are blacks, they are all people of color that are ready to take action next. And we can't do that if we keep on talking about this forever. We have talked about it enough. Now let's implement. We have them, by the way. FIU is, we have not done extremely well, but I think since the last 5 years, I've seen blacks being hired, and we need more. And we need to encourage them ourselves, wherever they are, hey, apply. Because if you don't apply, who is gonna bring you in? And so let's try that. And I think we have the support of the dean. We have the support of the university, at least from where I'm talking, having been in one of those places. The provost office is so big in diversity, and it's not just diversity to mean blacks, it's diversity to mean everyone. Whites, we don't have too many whites in certain roles. Bring them on. And the more we create that awareness, I think we should be much in a stronger position. And we are lucky, by the way. So let's take advantage of the environment that we've been given here and just keep on pushing. And that would be one of your achievements, David, as a student leader. And you can take that to the bank.
Thank you so much, Fred, for jumping in and saying that, you know, you've taken up some of the questions that are currently in the chat. And I wanted to comment on a couple of those too, because what I see happening is a rejuvenation of some of the practices we had in the college before. For instance, there is a mentorship program there, and I know that others of us have served on that before. So we want to continue that practice. So there is a mentorship program within the college, and I believe the dean is very anxious to get faculty mentors to step up to the plate and assist now. The time is now for that. I listened to what Sarah said in the very beginning of the role that Dr. Smith, Antoinette Smith, played in her life as a mentor. And so we have other faculty here who can act and have been very, very active already trying to recruit mentors for our students. So we want this to be exactly that. And one of my focus over the next year is to see if we can help to identify faculty members who can work alongside, come alongside with our student groups and with student leaders and step up as starting out as advisors, but more so to this very issue here, to try and train our students and to help them to be empowered, more empowered to take action that will lead to their own training and development. We do have opportunities to do that, and the time is now. So I really thank you for emphasizing that. I also wanted to mention quickly that in terms of what is on our plate as outcomes, we need to focus on specific outcomes from this particular session here today. David mentioned earlier on the idea of creating an Alia program, workshops. And so we want a little bit more feedback from our students if you consider that as something that will help you bridge the gap with other students within your own organizations to develop them and to get them started and to bring about the kind of change we're talking about.
Thank you, Dr. Rooms. So going back to the mentorship program, like Dr. Rooms mentioned, we do have that in the college where people can sign up to be mentors and also mentees. I have felt that it does help me a lot in my development to have Dr. Rooms as my faculty advisor, you know, with questions, planning, ideas, you know, helping me make informed decisions. I do think that it is very crucial to everyone's success to have that figure, that mentor that they can go to. And really help them grow in college, because we're not just here to study, read books and take tests. We're getting prepared to go out into the real world to contribute to society, to, you know, be CEOs of a company one day, maybe be a state politician. So these are all very important aspects of our development and growth in college that is just not in the classroom. We have to go outside, we have to engage in these extracurriculars, these conversations. And so now, Sarah, if you would like to comment a little bit more on that, on mentorship, and if you have words of encouragement for students that may not be able to get involved with a particular organization due to time constraints and things of that nature, so maybe encourage them to seek a mentorship program.
Okay, yeah. I definitely feel like mentorships are beneficial. It could be difficult to navigate when you're thrown into situations that you're not truly prepared for, right? But I feel like there's always lessons to be learned from someone else, and there's always more to build on, especially with your expertise. Knowledge is power, and education never stops. Having these mentorships, you're able to collaborate with one another, gather ideas, build relationships with one another, which I love. And, you know, just start being intentional with your actions. You can't just be busy to be busy if it does not serve a purpose. If you feel like that you don't have enough time, or if you're truly passionate about something, you'll make time for it. That's how I'm going to put it. Because, yeah, it's a lot. But if you start to communicate that with other people, like show interest, be like, hey, like, I really want to do this, but I'm looking for solutions on how I could be part of this.
Thank you, Sarah. And Talia?
Yeah, I agree with what Sarah said. I think it's very important to have mentors in your life just because they've gone through what you want to accomplish, and they can help you with that. And then I also think, like, if you don't have time for anything, you should make maybe like 30 minutes a day to call your mentor, ask them questions on on how you can improve, how you can make more time for things that you want to be a part of and things like that. And that would help you a lot. So.
Thank you, Talia. And Dr. Weir Thompson, going to one of the questions that we received in terms of targeting local high school students for mentorship, tutoring, things of that nature. I know that you said you worked in counseling. How do you feel that would be crucial to a student's success, whether they go to college or don't, or if they're, making good decisions or bad decisions? Do you think that is something that students should take on here at FIU Business to work on in the community?
I believe so. And it's not just high school, but the younger they are, the better. If they're we have, I think, Carlos J. Finley across from us at FIU, and they come over often. Now, what's on their mind? Going to FIU when they're older. When they come to the fair, and we have a large group of people who visit the fair, they're exposed to FIU, but they need to know that they can get there. So part of what the students could do is visit communities where they believe that the population, even though they're in our geographic location, their representation is less than what it should be. Visit those places. Let them know that there are things they can do. Sometimes you don't try unless you know you can succeed. They need to know they can succeed at coming to FIU. And if not at FIU, choose a different path. There are other options out there. You do not have to go with what you believe society has for you. And seeing other students do it will help those students. As elementary, kindergarten, I wouldn't say go to kindergarten, but middle school or 8th grade and high school those years are the middle school. They think they're unstoppable. So help pump up that ego that they have, because they're very egotistic at that age. Add to it. Let them know that you are going to be better than you are now, and you can do that if you go to college, or just choose a different path, so that we don't have the issue with them ending up in places that I see it cripples innovation in our society, because human capital is invaluable. And when they're not able to be mentored in the right way, we lose all those essential things that come from people, that uniqueness that brings about innovation. We lose that when we don't empower all of them at an early age.
Can I just jump in there quickly, just to second that also? There is a program that I've been working with in middle school and elementary schools, the 500 role models. I think it was started by Congresswoman Wilson. And I know that's a very powerful program here, and I've been working for years with them. And so I know the true value of having those kind of mentors in your life. And the biggest joy I've had over the years is a couple of times when I've seen one of those kids who I helped just to train them how to tie a tie, for instance, and to see them end up at FIU. It's really great to see the continuity through the years. So I know that this is kind of what Dr. Perry is referring to about having mentors and going earlier, deeper in the K-12 system. At FIU, we have the elementary school right on the northwest corner of our property there on our Mitch-Medee campus. So we do have examples right there before us of where we have the infrastructure there, where we can begin to have a deeper say in mentorship. But I also wanted to address, related to that, to Dr. Fred here. How has it been specifically as a Black professor, a male professor in our college? Do you see opportunities like this for mentoring, Fred? I mean, share with us your experience in the classroom. I think we heard a little bit more from Dr. Weir Thompson on that, but can you tell us what your experience has been as a male professor in the classroom?
I think at the moment I can say we haven't done well. I haven't done well myself. This faculty, I believe, is in the market, I think, in informatics. decision sciences, and he's a junior faculty. And I only came to know him just very recently in another meeting. And so either this lack of communication, and I think we need to encourage that communication when they come. At least they need to be pointed out to, okay, here are a few people that you might need to talk to. And sometimes they are shy. So the way to deal with that shyness, in my view, I've been assistant professor at some time or some level, is that tell the senior professors that, hey, there's this new faculty that have just come. Would you spare some time talking to him or her? I know I've done that specifically with one of our assistant professors, and I gave her names of the faculties that I knew in the college, encouraged her to have a tea or something with them. So I think we haven't done well in that. When I came in, we didn't have many of us to that level, except people, you and others are with me in the same department. So there was, that's already there. But I think as a college, we need probably to do more in that. So whenever there are hires, this is where I think we can engage the chairs. If they're minorities, be they women or otherwise, or blacks, just inform the, the larger community who are there to see if they can support. Some of them might not need our help, but guess what? Trying is just the beginning of everything else, because sometimes they need it, but they didn't know how to approach. So if we can open that line of communication, I think that will be addressing some of the mentorship that we have, because we go through so many unique challenges in terms of when they're going for their third year review. Those of you who in our line, we go through steps of, we just don't want them to end by third year. They say, well, I know I'm not going to make it. Maybe it's simply because somebody did not tell him or her the priorities, things that he or she needs to do. And so I think we need to engage more. And this is one of those instances whereby at least now the dean is aware. You will be communicating to the chairs, hey, if you have a higher minority, let people know, let other people know, and they can see how they can help.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. I think those are some really important points. I do think that now we have really everyone aware in the college, and I think we're headed in the right direction. Before we go, I want to leave you guys with a quote. Martin Luther King Jr. said, we may have all come on different ships, but we are all in the same boat now. I think that's really relevant, especially for us today. We all have different backgrounds, different stories, and we're all here now in this conversation, and we all need to contribute because if not, the ship will sink. So before we go, is there anything that any of you want to leave to the audience?
Ladies first.
I will go, just because I'm older than the other beautiful females that are here. What I want to leave with the audience is, despite the obstacles that are there, despite the fact that, like we've heard, I can't breathe, find a way to breathe. Dr. Smith had said in the first part 1 that don't be afraid. So fight to breathe, and don't be afraid to breathe, and go out and seek those that you think that can help you. Go through the FIU directory, and if there's someone you think you need help or you need to talk to, call them. If they can answer, they'll answer. But I know, based on the leadership of Dean Lee, we are vigilant in our efforts to support you, our students. So if you reach out to us, we will gladly help. I'm here and I'll gladly help. I was where you were. I did my undergrad, did my master's here at FIU. I know, I wish I had known more faculty member that could help. Those who did and who were willing to, we're very good friends now. It was last week, and I visited my professor from ENC 1101, and she was a female professor. So I'm telling you, don't be afraid to go out there. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you're smart. And I'm here. We're here. The College of Business is here to support you, because when you succeed, we succeed. When you do well, we do well. When you are proud, we are proud. So we want to help you, because you make us look good when you do good.
Exactly. Thank you. And Dr. Fred, closing remarks.
I just have a few. Number one, to the students, again, professors are human beings. They're your fathers, they're your brothers, they're your everyone. So please seek out. When you are in trouble, I always tell my students, bring it on, okay? Sometimes I have an advantage of who I am. I'm a little bit more open, but I think 99% of the faculty really mean well. They want you to succeed. And don't wait until last minute and start badging them with all sorts of emails back and forth. Remember, you can say so many bad things in email. Please check before you send it out. If you send any professor a very nice email, hey, it's my mistake, this didn't have to happen, nicely, you'll be surprised how many of these professors are willing to help. Seek them out. They're human beings. They have children in the same university that you are in, and they're willing to support. So please talk to them as human beings, and they will help you a lot. Anytime I talk to students, they come back to me, oh, by the way, I just did exactly what you told me, and guess what? He or she is willing to support me or help me. That's what the dean wants. That's what the chairs want. That's what the faculty want. That's what the president of the university wants, the provost, for all of you to succeed. Please seek us out. For my fellow faculty, the chairs and the deans, this is our time. Let's make a difference. These things don't come always, so it happens to have come at the right time. So let's do something. Action, 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 and I think together we can do this.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. And Alia, closing remarks?
So I would like to thank everyone for having me here, and just let off with a quote that I've heard, who would you be if no one was watching? So I think just to not let anyone stop you from doing anything, or let society stop you from reaching your goals. That's a really good thing to do, and just to keep going no matter how many times you fail, just get up and keep trying. And yeah, just that's all.
Thank you. And Sarah, closing remarks?
This is mainly towards the students. If there are any students watching, if you feel scared, nervous, uncomfortable, that's okay. That's perfectly normal. Being uncomfortable and growth must coexist with each other in order for you to be successful. So don't be scared to do something you never imagined yourself doing.
And I just have a few closing remarks too, just before you wrap up, David. So I wanted to say thank you, particularly to the two students we had. I know when they were approached, they never even thought twice of doing this. So I did have follow-up with both of you, and I know the passion that you brought to this. So I really want to thank you, Sarah and Alia, for taking time out to be with us this evening. You truly are the example of exemplary students that we have this in our student body. So we really want this to be, and you should feel empowered after this to help us make this a multiplier effect, to train others, to come alongside others and bring them out, because we're right here ready to assist in that, to get them the opportunity to feel empowered and that they can be the leaders that you are. I also want to thank our faculty members for volunteering. I've got a similar thing. When we approached Fred, was very quick to say, yes, I'll do that. Just give me the time and the date. Just like that, Fred. Just give me the time and the date. And similarly, when we approached Dr. Thompson, I know her as but some of you don't know, but she sings in our chorale, in the school chorale. When I approached her, she was also very willing to do this. So thank you so much. You really stepped up and showed that you care about the student business here, and particularly about the inclusion and equity, when being a voice, having a voice heard on this. So thank you so much for your time and for volunteering this evening. David?
Thank you, Dr. Rooms. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. For those of you that are still here listening in, thank you, and thank you for your questions. I do think that there are a lot of good ideas that came in, and we do have a lot more coming in the near future. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, concerns, or suggestions. and also join us for our next conversation next month. The date is still to be determined, but we will send that information as soon as that is ready. So thank you everybody for joining, and I'll see you next time.
And a big thank you to David. Thank you so much, David, for participating, for being our moderator this evening. Thank you.
Good job, David.
Thank you.
Everyone, Lady Sarah and Tyler, you did good. Shailen, excellent. Thank you for sitting next to me here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye, everyone, and everybody.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.